Namaste and welcome to Daily News Simplified, the what, why, and how of newspaper reading.
Now we're going to be analyzing the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper of 22nd of November 2018, and the timestamp for the same is given in the description section and the comment section given below. And so now with this, let us start with the first article. Now we have taken this article from page 1, and this article also continues on page 10. Now as you already might be aware of, Cyclone Gaj has struck the eastern coast of India. And what has happened is that hundreds of birds in the Calimere Wildlife and Bird Sanctuary have been found dead. And apart from this, there was also massive damage to trees and other parts of the wildlife sanctuary. Now what we'll do with regards to this article is understand the various features of the Calimere Wildlife and Bird Sanctuary. Now the first thing that you need to understand about Point Calimere Wildlife and Bird Sanctuary is its location. Now if you can see in this map, Point Calimere Wildlife and Bird Sanctuary is located in the state of Tamil Nadu. And apart from this, a unique feature of the Point Calimere Wildlife and Bird Sanctuary is that it is located between Park Strait and the Bay of Bengal, wherein as you already might know that Park Strait connects to the Gulf of Mannar. Now after understanding the location of Point Calimere Wildlife and Bird Sanctuary, you need to understand as to what type of a wildlife sanctuary is Point Calimere. Now there are three main geographical features of the Point Calimere Wildlife Sanctuary. First is that it contains dry evergreen forest. Now what is unique about this is that dry evergreen forest is indigenous to the coastal belt of Southeast India. And so therefore when we talk about Southeast India, it mainly refers to the state of Tamil Nadu. Now in simple terms, because this area is located close to the coastal seaboard, it receives moisture which allows the formation of forest. However, it is considered a dry evergreen forest because the coastal seaboard of southeast part of India, which is mainly the state of Tamil Nadu, only receives rain from the retreating monsoon and therefore receives less quantity of rainfall and is thereby considered a dry evergreen forest. And apart from this, what else you need to remember about this is that Point Calimere Wildlife Sanctuary contains the single largest stretch of unique dry evergreen forest in the country. Now after this, the second main type of Point Calimere Wildlife Sanctuary is that it contains tidal mud flats. Now if you can see in this image, mud flats are generally formed when mud is deposited by rivers or by tides. And as you already understand, Point Calimere lies on the Bay of Bengal. And this red region in the image is where mud flats are found in Calimere Wildlife Sanctuary, wherein the tides which come in from the Bay of Bengal deposit mud within this area. And in simple terms, this is how tidal mud flats have been formed in the Calimere Wildlife Sanctuary. And therefore what you need to understand with regards to your upcoming prelims examination is that tidal mud flats which are found in Calimere Wildlife Sanctuary is only of its kind in India. So now hopefully you've understood the two unique types about the Calimere Wildlife Sanctuary. First, that it contains dry evergreen forest which is indigenous to the coastal seaboard of Southeast India, which means the state of Tamil Nadu. And what is unique about them is that the dry evergreen forest in the Calimere Wildlife Sanctuary is the single largest stretch of dry evergreen forest in India. And apart from this, Point Calimere Wildlife Sanctuary also contains tidal mud flats. And these tidal mud flats are the only of its kind in India. Now apart from this, what else you need to understand about Point Calimere Wildlife Sanctuary are the main animals that are found there. Now the first type of animal which is found in Point Calimere Bird Sanctuary are water birds like flamingos. Apart from that, the main animal which is found in the Calimere Wildlife Sanctuary is the black buck antelope, wherein Point Calimere Wildlife Sanctuary has the largest black buck population in South India. And apart from this, the Point Calimere Wildlife Sanctuary is also a nesting site of the olive ridley turtles. And now the last aspect that you need to understand about the Point Calimere Wildlife and Bird Sanctuary is that it was declared a wetland of international importance or a Ramsar site in 2002. Now these are the unique features that you need to remember about Point Calimere Wildlife and Bird Sanctuary, especially with regards to your upcoming prelims examination of 2019, wherein there are 5 aspects that you need to remember. First is its location. The second and third aspect is that it contains dry evergreen forest and tidal mud flats. The fourth aspect that you need to remember are the main animals that are found in the Point Calimere Wildlife Sanctuary. And the last aspect that you need to remember is that it was declared a Ramsar site or a wetland of international importance in 2002. Now a question for your practice is consider the following geographical features. Now what you can do is pause this video and the correct answer to this question would be given after 5 seconds. Now it is a simple question and you should know that the correct answer to this question would be D, Point Calimere in Tamil Nadu. Since it contains dry evergreen forest, is the only location in India to contain tidal mudflats. And lastly, as you already understand, that Point Calimere Wildlife Sanctuary has been declared a wetland of international importance or a Ramsar site, and therefore it also contains wetlands. And so now with this, let us move on to the next article. Now we have taken this article from page 7. Now the reason this article is in the news is because India has made a formal request to the United States to purchase the MH-60R multi-role helicopters. Now what we need to understand from this article is about the MH-60R Seahawk helicopter. Now before moving forward, let us first understand and revise on how questions have been asked in previous prelims examination on defense technology. Now the various questions that were asked on defense technology within the prelims examination in the past 10 years, basically from 2008 to 2018. Now apart from this, the answer to each question has also been marked. But what you can see from the questions that were asked in the past 10 years, that most of the questions were mainly focused upon missile systems, such as the Barak missile system asked in 2008, the Shaurya missile system asked in 2009, Agni 4 missile system asked in 2014, and the American anti-missile system called THAAD, which was asked in 2018. And about 3 questions have been asked with regards to defense equipments, such as on the advanced light helicopter called Dhruv in 2008, with regards to INS Sindhu Ghosh and INS Virat asked in 2009, and with regards to INS Astradharni, which was asked in 2016. So from this analysis, you need to understand that questions on defense helicopters have not yet been asked in the prelims examination. Now the first and the main aspect that you need to understand about this helicopter is its country of origin, wherein as you already understand that the MH-60R Seahawk helicopter is being produced by the United States. The second aspect you need to understand is the purpose of the MH-60R Seahawk helicopter, wherein the MH-60R is an anti-submarine helicopter. And since the MH-60R is an anti-submarine helicopter, it is being inducted by the Indian Navy. Now these are the 2 main features that you need to understand about this helicopter from the perspective of your upcoming prelims examination. Now a question for your practice is which of the following pairs are correctly matched? And following the same procedure, pause this video, solve this question, and the correct answer would be given after 5 seconds. Now the correct answer to this question would be C, both 1 and 2. Now as you already understand, MH-60R is from the United States, while the Sea King 42B, which has also been mentioned in the article, is a multi-role helicopter which is being currently used by the Indian Navy for anti-submarine warfare, and the country of origin for Sea King 42B is Britain. And so now with this, let us move on to the next article. Now we have taken this article from page 18. Now the first thing that we're going to understand is why this article is in the news. Now what is happening is that the island nation known as Marshall Islands would be conducting a virtual climate summit. Now this virtual climate summit would be a 24-hour live stream in which a political meeting would be held online. Now various countries would be participating in this virtual climate summit, such as France, Canada, among others. Now the main purpose as to why Marshall Island is hosting a virtual climate summit is to raise awareness against sea level rise, and also to raise awareness as to how sea level rise due to global warming poses a threat to Pacific island nations. Now if you take a look at this map, Marshall Island is located in the Pacific Ocean and forms a part of Micronesia. Now these Pacific island nations have been divided into 3 subcategories. First is Micronesia, second is Melanesia, and the third is Polynesia. Now as you already might know that because of global warming, there has been a rise in sea level. And because of this rise in sea level, most of the smaller island nations within the Pacific Ocean, such as Easter Island, Marshall Islands, Kiribati, Tuvalu, and among others, may get submerged underwater due to the rise in sea level. And therefore, what is required for you to understand from this article is what are the small island nation countries that can be submerged underwater due to the rise in sea level, which is being caused by global warming. Now, if you take a look at this map, there are 11 small island nation countries within the Pacific Ocean against whom there is a fear that may get submerged underwater due to the rise in sea level. The first country is Palau, second is Micronesia, third is Marshall Islands, fourth is Nauru, fifth is Kiribati, sixth is Tuvalu, the seventh is Samoa, eighth is Tonga, ninth is Fiji, which also contains a large population of Indian diaspora, 10th is Vanuatu, and 11th is Solomon Islands. Now, apart from this, countries such as Papua New Guinea also forms a part of Pacific Island nations. However, currently there is no fear that the whole country of Papua New Guinea would be submerged underwater due to the rise in sea level. So with regards to your prelims examination, you need to understand the classification of Pacific Island nations and the 11 small Pacific Island countries which might be submerged underwater due to the rise in sea level. And the understanding from both of these would be from the perspective of world geography with linkages to general issues on climate change. Now, a question for your practice is which of the following countries are threatened with complete submergence underwater due to the rise in sea levels? Now, what you need to do is pause this video, solve this question, and wait for 5 seconds for the correct answer. Now, the correct answer to this question is B, 1, 2, and 4, wherein you already understand that Marshall Island, which has led this virtual climate summit, is threatened to be submerged underwater due to the rise in sea level. Apart from this, the smallest island country in the world, Nauru, which is also a Pacific island nation, is also threatened to be submerged due to the rise in sea level. And apart from this, the country of Maldives, which is located in South Asia, is also threatened to be submerged underwater due to the rise in sea level. However, the country of Papua New Guinea, which is also a Pacific island nation country, is not threatened to be completely submerged underwater. And therefore, the correct answer would be B, 1, 2, and 4. And so now with this, let us move on to the next article. Now we have taken this article from page 7. Now what has happened is that a citizen of America was recently killed by the people belonging to the protected Sentinelese tribe, which inhabit the North Sentinel Island in Andaman Nicobar Island group. Now what we'll do with regards to this article is understand two aspects. Is first the restriction and relaxation of access to the North Sentinelese Island. And the second aspect that we'll try to understand from this article are various facts about the Sentinelese tribe. Now with regards to your UPSC syllabus, first with regards to your prelims examination syllabus, you should see this article in particular about Sentinelese tribe from the perspective of social geography. And apart from that, you should see the restriction and relaxation of access to North Sentinel Island from the perspective of rights issue. And with regards to your mains examination, it would first be placed in GS paper 1 within the section Society and within the subsection Salient Features of Indian Society and Diversity of India. And in similar terms, it would also be placed in GS paper 2 within the section Social Justice and within the subsection Mechanism and Laws Constituted for the Protection and Betterment of Vulnerable Sections. And the vulnerable section here would be the Sentinelese tribe. Now before moving forward, the first aspect that you need to understand is the location of the North Sentinel Island. Now this island is part of the Andaman Island group and is located roughly around 50 kilometers from the capital of Andaman Nicobar, Port Blair. Now let us understand the first aspect with regards to access to the North Sentinel Island. Now earlier this year, the Union Home Ministry had lifted the restriction for foreigners' entry to 29 inhabited islands of the Andaman Nicobar Island group. Now these restrictions to visit the 29 inhabited islands of the Andaman Nicobar Island group were provided under the Foreigners Restricted Area Order of 1963, wherein this order disallowed any foreigner to enter and stay in a restricted area without the prior permission of the Government of India. Now this Foreigners Restricted Area Order of 1963 was not just only specified to the Andaman Nicobar Island, it also had various parts of the Sikkim state within its purview. Now these areas, such as the 29 islands of the Andaman Nicobar Island group, were restricted so as to protect and preserve the distinct indigenous culture and traditions of the inhabiting people of those regions. And apart from this, these restrictions were also in place so as to maintain the ecological balance and environmental stability in those areas. And apart from this, there was also one other reason which is not being specified by the Government of India, which was the perspective of security, wherein these areas were restricted to foreign nationals so as to maintain security over the strategic area, such as the islands of Andaman Nicobar and certain parts of Sikkim. However, earlier this year, these restrictions were relaxed by the Union Home Ministry, And the main reason that these restrictions to the Andaman Nicobar Island group was relaxed so as to promote tourism for those islands. And therefore, 29 inhabited islands of the Andaman Nicobar Island group were excluded from the restricted area permit. However, restrictions still continued on citizens of Afghanistan, China, Myanmar, and of Pakistan, wherein citizens of these four countries still required a pass from the Deputy Commissioner of the Andaman Nicobar Island group. So now hopefully you understood the first aspect of this article with regards to the restriction and relaxation of access to the 29 islands of the Andaman Nicobar Island group, which included the northern Sentinelese island. Now let us understand the second aspect, which is the various features of the Sentinelese tribal group. Now the islands of the Andaman Nicobar Island group are home to 6 Aboriginal or primitive indigenous tribes of India. Now the first of these indigenous tribes of India are Onges, second is Jarawa, the third tribe is Sentinelese, the fourth tribe is Andamanese, the fifth tribe is Shompen, and the sixth tribe is Nicobarese. And you need to remember the names of all of these 6 tribes, especially with regards to your prelims examination. Now these tribes are protected under the Andaman Nicobar Island Protection of Aboriginal Tribes Regulation Act of 1956. Now as we have already discussed, the restricted area permit that was required to visit the northern Sentinelese island was removed by an earlier order of the Union Home Ministry, whereby the Union Home Ministry allowed access to foreign nationals to the northern Sentinelese island. Now what you need to understand is that even though foreign nationals did not require permission under the required area permit to visit the northern Sentinelese island, the visit of foreign nationals to the northern Sentinelese island was still being regulated under the Andaman Nicobar Island Protection of Aboriginal Tribes Regulation Act of 1956. And therefore it was within that context that the American national who was recently killed by the Sentinelese tribe was restricted to visit the Sentinelese Aboriginal tribe under the Regulation Act of 1956. Since the Sentinelese tribe which inhabit the northern Sentinelese island are still protected from outside influence under the Andaman Nicobar Island Protection of Aboriginal Tribes Regulation Act of 1956. Now we have already understood about the location of the North Sentinel Island. So what we'll try to understand is about the Sentinelese tribe that inhabit the Northern Sentinel Island. Now the Sentinelese tribe are assumed to be direct descendant of Negritos, who were the earliest humans who emerged out of Africa. Now the Sentinelese tribe are still hunter-gatherers and have also inhabited the island for roughly around 60,000 years. Apart from this, the Sentinelese tribe speak a language which has not yet been deciphered or understood, and even the Ongas, which are considered to have the same origin as the Sentinelese tribe, also do not comprehend the language that is being spoken by the Sentinelese tribe. Now it has been assumed that the population of the Sentinelese tribe is roughly between 150 to as low as 40. Now the Sentinelese tribe still live in an isolated environment and have made little or no advancement in over 60,000 years, and it has been asserted that the Sentinelese tribe still follow the Paleolithic lifestyle, which the Sentinelese tribe had learned when they first emerged out of Africa and settled in the northern Sentinelese island. Now these are the main features that you needed to understand about the Sentinelese tribe. Now a question for your practice is consider the following statements on the Sentinelese tribe. And now what you can do is pause this video, solve this question, and the answer would be provided in 5 seconds. Now the correct answer to this question would be C, 3 only, wherein the Sentinelese tribe inhabit the northern Sentinel Island but in the Andaman Island group. And with regards to the second statement, the Sentinelese tribe still follow the Paleolithic lifestyle and do not have primitive agriculture practices, nor do they have iron tools. However, the Sentinelese tribe do live in isolation and are a protected scheduled tribe in India. And apart from this, a main question for your practice is, do you agree with the policy of the Government of India of maintaining the isolation of the Sentinelese tribe? Highlight the distinct features of the Sentinelese tribe in comparison to other tribal groups of the Andaman Nicobar Islands. And what you need to do is answer the first aspect of this question from the perspective of GS Paper 2 with regards to mechanisms and laws for the protection of vulnerable group, and answer the second aspect of this question from the perspective of GS Paper 1 with regards to salient features of Indian society. And so now with this, let us move on to the next article. Now I have taken this article from the editorial page on page 9. Now, what this article talks about is that a PIL or a public interest litigation has been filed in the Supreme Court, and this PIL has included a proposal to create an independent mechanism to appoint the Chief Election Commissioner. Now, you have to understand that this news is currently in transition, wherein we'll have to wait and see on how the Supreme Court moves forward in forming a particular mechanism to appoint the Chief Election Commissioner. And therefore, what is required for you to understand from this article is the current appointment system of the Chief Election Commissioner. So, if you take a look at the Constitution of India, in particular Part 15 of the Constitution of India, under the section Elections, and in particular Article number 324, when this article states that the Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners will be appointed by the President of India based on the provisions of any law that has been made by the Parliament. Now, with regards to the appointment procedure of the Chief Election Commissioner, the author has raised a concern. Wherein, according to the author, the Constitution of India does not have any form of defined criteria or processes on how a particular person shall be appointed as the Chief Election Commissioner. And therefore, according to the author, this allows executive interference through the Chief Election Commissioner. And therefore, according to the author, the government in power can appoint any bureaucrat as the Chief Election Commissioner, and thereby this allows a biased selection of the ruling political party and opens the gate for executive interference in the procedure of election. And therefore, the author has highlighted the PIL which has been submitted in the Supreme Court as a possible solution to this problem, wherein the PIL has proposed to the Supreme Court to create an independent mechanism to appoint the Chief Election Commissioner. So now hopefully up till here you understood the main focus of this article, but you also need to understand that this possible solution which has been given by the author, in particular the PIL which has been submitted in the Supreme Court, is still a news in transition. And therefore we'll have to wait and see on how this news moves forward. However, what is required for you to remember is the appointment procedure of the Chief Election Commissioner, both from the perspective of your prelims examination and from the perspective of your mains examination. So a question for your practice is, which of the following correctly defines the procedure of appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner? And as you already know, pause this video, solve this question, and wait for 5 seconds for the correct answer. Now the correct answer to this question would be B, that the CEC is appointed by the President based on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers with the Prime Minister at the head. And this is because under Article 324, the Chief Election Commissioner is appointed by the President of India. However, the appointments undertaken by the President is based on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers with the Prime Minister at the head, which is given under Article 74 of the Constitution of India.
And now with this, we come to an end in the analysis of today's newspaper. Now we move on to the question for today.